Welcome, everyone. If you love piecing together historical puzzles and finding the hidden mechanics behind ancient texts, well, you are in the exact right place. In today's explainer, we're unpacking what's known as the 17th pattern and how it completely decodes the 33 AD timeline. We're looking at a mathematical paradox that has literally puzzled scholars for centuries, and we are going to solve it together. Okay, let's dive right into this because this is the foundational problem that kicks off our entire investigation. How do you fit exactly 72 hours between a Friday afternoon and a Sunday morning? The simple answer is you can't. Not without a time machine, anyway. Yet traditional historical models have tried to cram the 3 days and 3 nights prophecy, often known as the sign of Jonah, into this mathematically impossible window. The math just doesn't work. But what if the starting point was actually wrong all along?
So here's our roadmap to solving this puzzle, the 72-hour puzzle, the Wednesday transition, the 364-day calendar, the 33.5-year life cycle, and finally, resolving the 1544 error. Part 1. The 72-hour mathematical puzzle.
72. That is our magic number. For the ancient prophecy of the Messiah being cut off and spending 3 days and 3 nights in the earth to be fulfilled, we need a strict, uncompromising 72-hour period. Not 48 hours, not close enough, but exactly 72 hours. This strict requirement really sets the stakes for us. If a historical model cannot produce a seamless 72-hour window, it simply cannot be the correct chronological timeline. It's that simple.
Part 2. The Wednesday to Sunday transition. To fix the math, we have to look at the source material's crucial pivot point, which is how we define the word Sabbath. A massive chronological error happens when people assume every single Sabbath mentioned in ancient texts means a Saturday. The source material actually defines 2 distinct types, a high Sabbath and a weekly Sabbath. The high Sabbath in this context was Nisan 15, the first day of unleavened bread. It was an annual high day that could fall on any day of the week. So in the specific week we're examining, there were actually 2 Sabbaths back-to-back, separated by just a single workday. Now, what's really interesting here is how methodically this solves our puzzle. If the crucifixion and burial happen on a Wednesday, Nisan 14, the preparation day, everything falls perfectly into place. Thursday becomes your high Sabbath, Nisan 15, that's day 1. Friday is an interim workday. Saturday's the standard weekly Sabbath, Nisan 17, that's day 3. Because the burial happened right before sunset on Wednesday, the 72-hour clock runs out exactly as the sun sets on Saturday. That brings us right to Sunday, the first day of the week with an empty tomb. It fulfills the prophecy of happening in the midst of the week and lands flawlessly on Nisan 17. Part 3. The 364-day calendar grid. Now you might be wondering, doesn't Passover float around to different days of the week every year? Well, on a lunar calendar, yeah, it does. But our source material utilizes the 364-day solar calendar found in the Ethiopian canon, specifically in the ancient books of Enoch and Jubilees. On this fixed solar grid, dates do not float at all. Nisan 14 is locked permanently to a Wednesday, every single year. Which means Nisan 17 is permanently locked to the transition between the Saturday Sabbath and Sunday. It's a perfect, repeating, mechanical grid. So let's look at how this calendar grid triggers a major spiritual and historical milestone, the first fruits, or Bikurim. The ancient Leviticus command states that the wave offering of the first fruits must be brought on the morrow after the Sabbath. Because the 364-day solar calendar locks Nisan 14 to Wednesday, the 72 hours end exactly as the weekly Sabbath ends. Therefore, Nisan 17 naturally becomes the morrow after the Sabbath. It completely removes the blindness of the lunar calendar and reveals a perfect historical alignment. And this brilliantly illustrates why the sources call it the 17th pattern. You see, Nisan 17 isn't just some random date. It's a spiritual locking pin that echoes throughout the source texts. In the historical records, the 17th day of the 2nd month is when Noah's Ark was actually lifted above the earth. The 17th day of the 7th month is when the Ark rested on Mount Ararat, the first fruits of a post-flood world. And now, on Nisan 17 and 33 AD, we see the exact same pattern repeat as the new creation begins. It's a mathematically precise, recurring chronological trigger. Part 4. The 33.5-year life cycle. Let's zoom out now from that specific week to the macro timeline. So the crucial point to this overarching timeline is that extra half year, the 0.5. We constantly hear about a 33-year lifespan, right? But that half year is absolutely vital to the math. It's the bridge. That extra half year is exactly what shifts the timeline from a fall or winter birth straight into a spring Passover sacrifice. Without the 0.5, you just don't hit the spring milestone required to fulfill the weeks of prophecy. Let's map this mathematical pillar out together. If we start with a corrected birth anchor of 1 BCE, we add the 30-year requirement to hit a ministry start in 29 or 30 AD. Add another 3.5 years, and we arrive precisely at Nisan 14 in 33 AD for the Passover sacrifice, with the resurrection triggering exactly on Nisan 17. The math just continues to validate itself from there. From 33 AD to the destruction of the temple in 70 AD is exactly a 37-year interval. This flawless timeline connects the end of the spiritual sacrifice directly to the physical one.
Part 5. Resolving the 1544 error. And this brings us to a massive divide in historical scholarship. The 1 BCE to 33 AD model maintains the 17th pattern perfectly, aligns with a 364-day solar cycle, and lands perfectly on first fruits. Yet, the dominant traditional model used today says 4 BCE to 30 AD. That model completely breaks the 17th pattern. It fails to align the days of the week with the high Sabbath requirements, often missing the 72-hour mark entirely. So why on earth do scholars use it? Because of a simple printing error in a 1544 edition of the historian Josephus's works. This single, manual shift in the 1500s forced historians to move the anchor back to 4 BCE, completely breaking the ancient chronological grid in the process.
This source material actually refers to this as a massive historical obscuration. Read this quote with me. The legal and institutional rejection of this Nisan 17 first fruits alignment is the primary cause of the chronological blindness. This is just so crucial because it shows how a single, uncorrected mistake can create centuries of institutional momentum, essentially hiding the true map of history. By adopting a timeline rooted in a 1544 printing error, institutions inadvertently hid the sevenfold instruction found in ancient texts like Enoch 93. Which brings us to a final thrilling question for you to ponder today. If shifting a single historical starting date from 4 BCE to 1 BCE can flawlessly realign an entire millennial timeline, locking in the 72 hours, perfectly landing the Wednesday to Sunday transition, and restoring the 17th pattern, what other chronological alignments are out there waiting to be uncovered? I really hope this explainer has sparked your curiosity and given you a completely new lens to view ancient history through. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I will see you next time.